Hi, welcome to Logistic Unlocked, a podcast by Alpega. Here, we focus on the decision shaping modern logistics. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Olivier Gonon. Olivier, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You've been part of this industry for a long time. Could you briefly share your journey and the perspective you bring today?
Sure. Yeah, it's about 2 decades now, so quite long. But I had the opportunity to join the logistic sector as a basic freight forwarder at the time. And I grew up within the organization. So I spent time on the carrier side, leading carriers, organizing transportation, planning everything. And then I moved also to the shipper side, so leading accounts, understanding how they operate their business. And finally, I had the opportunity to lead different teams across Europe, which is an amazing experience. And it helped me also understand how the full context of logistics works by leading teams and interfering with customers and carriers.
Good, and I'm sure you will be able to share great insight with our
I hope so. That's the mission.
Yeah,
exactly.
Today, I like to talk with you about the different pressure affecting the carrier capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So let me start here. The past few years have been a stress test for road transport. What structural pressure have become more permanent for carrier now?
You're right. So if you look at the last 3 years, I would say there's been a huge acceleration on cost pressure, and especially on the carrier side in the industry. So because we have a lot of cost raise around the industry, so drivers, leasing, cost of credit, infrastructure, so everything goes up. And in parallel, the cost for transportation doesn't really go up with shippers. So it leads to margin compression for the carrier industry, making it difficult to reach even a certain level of profitability. So they need to work inside around how can I better control my cost internally, control the raise of the cost externally so that I can run my business in a healthy way. And this is where they feel more pressure today. And another element here is the transformation of the business. There's a lot of digitalization of the business, and carriers as shippers need to invest in technology, AI, and it's also adding a lot of pressure on how fast they need to do this and how let's say, resilient they need to handle their business, and how cautious they need to be in the selection of the cost they're going to invest in this or this area of their business to stay, at a profitable level.
Thanks. So you talk about the pressure on the margin.
Mm-hmm.
If we deep dive on it, which pressure do you feel is costing the most margin erosion today? Is it fuel, wages, volatility, all of it?
Yeah, I'd say, well, probably a combination, but I would say fixed operating cost for carriers, because there's no other way. Yeah, they need to pay the drivers, they need to pay the leasing, they need to pay the fuel, and it's a very fluctuating environment. So the fuel is evolving every month. Driver shortage means that they put more pressure also on how to select the right drivers and to retain the drivers. So this side is kind of non-negotiable. So there's no way they can play with this. So this is, to me, the biggest pressure. Another big element is at the same time they need to comply with new regulations. I mean, you see CO2 emissions regulations. We want to aim for a greener transport industry, but this goes at a cost as well. And customers are also expecting from the carrier that they come with solutions. And this is the balance, that is very difficult to find on how to manage. We go with greener solutions, but at the same time, we need to control the way we manage our costs, let's say.
And talking about driver shortages, it's there to stay, it's no longer temporary. How is this reshaping how carrier plan capacity and growth for the future?
This is the main topic. I think the last survey we had shows that more than 70% of our carriers express that driver shortage is the number one issue. Today, there's different, reason around this. The job in itself is not super attractive for new generations. I think so. The purpose is really to find ways how to bring this back to it is an attractive job and it is something that has future for new generations. The other element is there is a shortage for domestic market, but also for international market. And the international market is even further because drivers want to stay home. They don't want to go out on the road for 2 or 3 weeks as it used to be in the past. So the combination of this is also adding more pressure, so that carriers, when they hire the drivers, they need to find the right balance on is it focusing on domestic or international business. So they need to review also the business model based on the type of drivers they can find on the market. So, and governments are working with associations also to find solutions. But as I speak with carriers and with associations, there are few initiatives, few elements that, give hopes, but there's no concrete solution that tells us, okay, we're going to solve it. We have concrete way to find solutions to make it move. So there is an active work around this, but in my opinion, this is a priority number one that governments and associations should support, to help our carriers, find the right drivers for the future.
You mentioned a few initiatives to build this hub. Do you have an example or something you can deep dive on it to make it more concrete?
For now, I know they're trying to give licensed drivers for younger drivers. For instance, I think for 17 years old, they're pushing for female community to join the driving, let's say, job as well. So I think they're exploring different options. But I believe it's more about packages. It's not only salaries, but working conditions. Yeah, so create a nice environment so that drivers can be home. They have nice conditions of work, packages, so they can feel in good conditions. Safety, is important because you're on the road. You need to find hotels to sleep. You need to start in parking. Secured parking is also missing a lot in Europe. So you need to build a full ecosystem that makes the work more attractive, but also safer for attracting drivers.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You mentioned it at the beginning, the impact of the new regulation. Mm-hmm. It's coming faster specifically in Europe.
Yes.
From sustainability reporting to working condition, which one do you think is the biggest operational on carrier?
I would say in different way. You have ambitions, to make a greener future, and we have economic reality, and we need to make it, combine, and both things work together. So it's the same concept today. I think what matters most for our carriers is, okay, how can I make sure my business is sustainable and I can generate sufficient profit to run my business and have a future growth and development? Mm-hmm. And I need to plug into this, regulations and, let's say, CO2 regulations, initiatives within my organization. So I still believe, cost efficiency, healthy business is the core priority. And then again, I think back to governments or associations, how can government support more with CO2 regulations enhancement? Because also we have EU regulations and then you have local country regulations. So it's a bit fragmented. There's no real harmonization so that it can support, the enhancement of new initiatives inside companies. So I believe cost efficiency is priority number one, because if your business don't survive, there's no way you can think about implementing, greener initiatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beyond basic freight exchange, what real value does Alpega bring to carrier today?
So I have a good vision on this. Yeah. So coming from the industry, and as I said, I was on the shipper side, on the carrier side, and always thinking, okay, how can we make it more combined, more together? However, it looks very easy on the paper, but the reality is quite different. And that's why many companies tried before, but didn't really succeed. So we need to be very cautious on lesson learning. Yeah. Let's not repeat what happened in the past and be a bit bolder and smarter on the way we're going to have this. But if I look at this from a ex-user perspective, and now being inside the organization, so we're selling today our freight exchange product so that users would connect their freight and trucks and it match together. My vision is that we should create a full ecosystem where the initial purpose of the freight exchange in the end becomes kind of a secondary use. The first use should be creating a full ecosystem where carriers are in, and then they start using our side services to support their business. Because as I said earlier, they have constraints outside. It's not only finding loads or finding trucks. They also need to make sure this freight is paid enough, that is compliant with empty kilometers, that is compliant with regulations. So if we come with a side list of services, value-added services around payments, around insurance, around reducing the empty kilometers, then we engage them into the full ecosystem. And you create customer stickiness then, and they want to stay within our organization, not only to post trucks, but also because we have a high range of services that will help us drive their business more efficiently. Yeah. This is how I see the, let's say, future of Alpega platform.
Before we end the interview, I like to end up with our 2 signature questions.
Okay.
So my first one is, what is one industry rule you will change?
Not necessarily about change, but putting more efforts on harmonizing regulations to support faster decisions for carriers, so that today they need to handle a lot of decisions without enough support. And another thing, it creates also more competition inside Europe, and there is friction, and we don't need this now because there's a shortage of capacity, and we should make this capacity, combined enough so that we can serve better the market. So that should be probably the harmonization regulations.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And my last one, if there was one advice you could give to our audience, what will it be?
Industry is moving now super fast. So I think the ones who will win the game are the ones that are not static, that make bold decisions, transform the industry. The old ways of doing things, I think, is gone. So make smart and fast decisions and focus. Less, but do better.
Yeah.
Insist on quality. And that's an exciting industry. So there's a lot to do. But focus, I think, is really key now.
That's it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.